It's not good.
Okay, well, then let's begin. This is our Q1 meeting for the Academy Row Meeting House Green Townhomes on March 27th at 1:30. We verify that this meeting was properly noticed. Perfect. Verify quorum. We don't have quorum because we have 2 out of their 5.
Okay,
So what that means is this is not an official meeting, but we can still hold it as a discussion.
okay,
There's no action items on your agenda anyway. It would just affect if you had action items because it would require a vote.
no,
So besides that, we can still go through the rest of the motions and have all of these discuss any discussion items and updates. I know, Lisa, you've been providing an update on the CDD GoGo.
Yes, so just overall service area had open tickets of 101 in GoGovs and 94 have been completed. It doesn't specifically apply to Academy Row, it's just all service areas.
perfect.
No outstanding for your location.
Yeah. So next one is the one that usually has been most of the discussions, is the financials.
It looks like we're in pretty good shape even in our reserves now, which is good. I do have a question on one of the units. There's a unit that we've had consistent problems with, and it is 537 Campus Street, which has a large outstanding balance again.
Yeah, renters in place.
It's a rental house, and this is the one that we had like $12,000 on.
They paid a big check or something.
They
right?
paid it, and then, of course, now they're doing it again, and apparently they got mailed a letter, and they refused the letter. So, it's Verdiv Investments LLC, but they are consistently a problem with paying. So I'm wondering if, I don't know how this works, because I'm not, on that side of this thing, but because they're consistently bad, and then they'll pay like a huge chunk and they're bad, and we know that it's a rental, why can't we just like take part of the rental money every month until they get back up to payment? Like, isn't there a legal way to do that?
So we can't be involved in their rental because the rental of the item is not connected to the HOA. Where some HOAs do short-term rentals through the association.
Yeah,
So it would just follows the process of they go into delinquencies, and then after the 90 days there, then it goes into collections.
yeah, well, I think it's in collection. But my point is, like, if somebody doesn't pay their child support, you can garnish their wages, and you don't have to be involved in their work, but you still can garnish the wages, like, legally. So why couldn't we garnish?
No, yeah, I mean, the process, it sits in collections and then it just stays there until they would have, until foreclosure on the house, and then it's part of the estoppel process, but.
Gotcha.
Or it could be, as part of the sale of the house would be to pay, it has to be covered before the house.
Before the house is sold. So there's some kind of thing in the,
Oh, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so if they were to foreclose, or, unfortunately, it stays in the collections process until it reaches a level that it reaches, something to a foreclosure letter. And then if that were to be the case, in the sale of the home, the new acquisition cannot take place until all fines have been recovered.
so how could we prevent that in the future? Can we, like, pass our own HOA rule that says that, hey, if this is a rental, this has to be paid first. We can do this or whatever. Like, isn't there some way around that for us in the future? So as people sign and buy a home, anybody moving forward has to agree to whatever it is.
Yeah, see, because even, rental or no rental, the delinquency is with the owner, not with the renter.
Yeah, no, but the owner is getting the renter's money.
Yeah, it's not connected to the HOA, outside of the tracking of
Yeah, well, that's shitty.
tenancy of, who, and that's only because of tracking who gets the use of amenities.
I get it. It just seems ridiculous that everybody else has to pay more now for this person that can't pay their bill, and they're obviously profiting off of the house, right? So, okay. And I just saw there was one more delinquent, but it looks like they're not very delinquent at all. So I think we're pretty good besides that.
Yeah, I was gonna see here, where were we on your reserves? Been doing for everyone's, we are, let's jump over to Academy Row. Yeah, yours is looking good.
We should be 733, basically, 733 gallons.
Okay, Academy Row funding plan, entering. Okay, so entering 2025, your expected reserve balance at the start of the year, according to your reserve study funding plan, should be at 476,000. This being 2 months into the year, you're sitting at 559,000. Oh, actually, no, you're sitting higher because of your investments as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're sitting at the 732. And you don't have any in interfund, which is good. So that means you don't have any current balance due to your reserves, which has been common in some of our other service areas, which has been deferred payments because their operating cash has been strapped. Your operating cash is not strapped. Yeah.
We keep it pretty tight.
Yours is your
Tight rein on it.
right. I'll say
Yeah.
your finance discussion is not how most of these finance discussions have been going.
We watch. So that's good.
That is very good. Yeah, very good. Like usually I'm not I don't even look at the column 2, the reserves there. Because we're only looking at what is actually in the bank account, because there's usually a large interfund line of money that that inflates your column 2. But that interfund line is an IOU to your reserves that has not been paid,
Yeah.
which you don't even have the line on yours.
And ours is getting invested monthly, so that's
Mhm.
good.
And we are, starting that with more service areas.
Good.
I think another one was approved last night for 56, smaller amount, but it's a newer service area, but in 56,000 moving into.
And I see you guys are seeing half of my plan working for last night, the 0.5%. You know, I was 1%, they passed 0.5%, but you see how much the difference in what you guys are bringing in for the town now.
Yeah, $220,000 last year, and we just moved another into a treasury bill last night.
Did you do that?
Yeah.
Great.
So
So
we just approved moving. We didn't move it, but yes.
I'm glad that's nice.
Yes.
I don't have any questions on finance, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's overall just on a general review of your year-to-date accounts. The only thing is roof repairs at year for the month were slightly above, but you're still very, very good on roof repairs on an annual basis. Every other line.
Repair. No. I don't know anybody.
At least can look into that for you, I know. But yeah, looks like that's the only thing that is not right in line with everything else. Your water bill is looking right on budget, which is always a shot in the dark. So that's good. I mean, you're $19 over budget year to date, but that's
good because I just got one of my other properties from CDD for an additional 4,700 for the month. And I was like, $4,700, nothing's leaking. And I'm like, you got a bad meter. And they're like, oh, somebody probably left their toilet running. And I'm like, a toilet running is not a $4,700. So they finally came out and fixed the meter after the third, but they hadn't refunded the money
yeah.
yet.
So no, your finances are in a very good shape.
Yeah, because mine for 2 months was reading way over what it was. And then,
My bill was lower this month. Wonder.
well, that's good.
Mhm.
It flips every other month, your bill will change. It never is the same. It's like a $30 difference. Because they average it out, so that's weird. Even though it's the same amount every month, they do it weird.
Yeah.
So that's been looking good. I see your landscaping overall. Sorry, anything else on finances before we move to?
I do have a question on,
This will have to be reclassified.
what's that?
It needs reclassed.
This needs to be reclassified. It's Long Meadow.
Okay. So your roofing line is under budget and there's a reclassification needed on that.
Okay,
Mhm.
we'll get back to roofing later. I do have something on roof, but we can get back to get to. I did have a question on the termite bond. So, I see that it's $8,000 annually, but at some of my other properties, it's like $900 for the same amount of property.
Were you saying 8,000?
Yeah, if you go to the annual or termite bond, it says $7,900.
Budget, right?
Yeah, but usually what happens at
Oh,
the
you're
other.
right. I'm sorry. Yes. Okay. I was looking at the wrong line.
So what's happened at the other properties that I'm on is they pay an initial fee for the original termite bond that's like, $5, $6 grand. And then every year it's only like $800 to keep the bond. So that's why and that's with Florida Pest, Florida. Yeah, so I'm wondering why ours is 8,000, because literally it's probably about the same amount of
And you're
space.
referencing another.
The units.
Yeah, so like Carlisle South over there, yeah. Yeah, so you take Carlisle South, it's over next to Stetson.
Mhm.
You gotta go up 3 levels on both sides, and you gotta do the back and all, so if you spread it out, it's about the same,
Yeah.
it's about the same size as what our
The
condo.
800 versus 1,000, 8,000 is.
Yeah, like I even have the bill here from them, but it's like the first bill was like 5,900, and then every bill after is like, let's see if this is it right here.
So we're getting charged $753 a month.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's just
So look,
something that,
your contract went up then from the budgeted amount.
so here's the
It says-
initial
I do
cost.
see the note of
The initial cost is
2025 renewal.
5760, and they pay 850 a year for so I mean, that's a huge difference from what we're paying.
Mhm.
And it's with Florida Pest Control. I'm not sure who ours is with, but
It's probably the same company.
It's the same company.
might be the same company.
Do you want
Here's I can send you
to
the
into
contract.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Take
could
a
you
note
check
to
on
look
that?
into it. Mhm.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, because I have the contract even from the other property of what it is. So
Maybe if you'll send that over to the lease so she can kind of
I can
at least
compare
get
what,
the answers, or, say, hey, here's another one that's, so, one of our homeowners is questioning why they're seeing a better rate on another property from the same company.
yeah, I'd love to.
That should be an easy answer from them. And if it's a hard answer from them, it means we should be getting a better deal.
Yep.
On track to see 2024 on track. I wonder why. So yours was carried. Yeah, because right now you're looking to run over budget by just over $1,000 on termite bond by end of year. Want to look into it?
Right,
Mhm.
at least.
perfect, thank you.
Yeah, I was looking into that for them the other day, and I was like, well, wait a second, why am I paying so much at the other place? So
Very fair. Yeah, and I mean, your expenditures over the next couple of years, what do we have going on? You have only 20,000 this year, 91,000 next year, 140,000. What are those?
yeah, look at what those are, because some of those we were
Sure.
gonna pass on doing.
Sounds about right too.
I remember us going through a bunch of stuff.
So in 2026, yeah, you're not going to spend that. It's shutters, $70,000 in shutters next year.
No, we're not doing that at all, because
That should have,
we just.
that,
repainted
I
it.
was gonna say shutters usually should be in line with your paint project, not a couple years around your paint project.
Yeah.
They're
We
usually,
didn't uncover any issues with them when we were doing the painting.
that's,
So those are staying, so that,
most service areas are finding good reserve savings through shutters because they're funded to be full replaced, and often the full replacement's not needed, so.
number makes me shudder.
What's bad? Your landscaping, just so you are aware, reserves is at 20,000 this year and at 20,000 next year. It does drop to 10,000 for expenditures out of reserves, in 27 moving forward. So it must have been anticipated. Yeah, I mean, it looks,
Yeah, ramping up the landscaping to get it up to par.
and that looks,
Yeah.
Back down.
yep, that looks like in 2024, you were up 19,000. So as well, it looks like it was a ramped higher 3-year phase, and then it's going to drop back down, which should stay. I would agree with you. I don't think you're going to have a problem with that. And it stays on that 3.5% increasing. So it's around that 11,000 annually. Your next big expense is scheduled. It's in 2027. That's 100,000.
With fencing,
It is fencing, 132,000 for fencing.
we're not gonna need new fences then. Now, we had talked at one point about doing maybe gates. Yeah. I don't think, maybe a couple people need them, but.
Yeah.
It's like replacement?
Yeah,
So you have 2 fencing lines. You have a metal fencing and a vinyl fencing. Your vinyl fencing line is
the metal
for
fences don't need it.
2,500 linear square feet. So that's probably your full property
Yeah,
is up with 132,000.
so
In 2027, you'll just do an assessment or you'll assess what needs to be replaced and
If
replace on that, if any.
I mean, you think
Yeah.
about that, how much of a pain that'd be, because they gotta go in between your yard and the next yard, they gotta dig up the post.
Ugly
It's
project.
It's,
So you're gonna be,
I'm thinking like my property, for example, part of the fence between me and my neighbor is a little bowed from some trees that are no longer against it, but it's
but you can get
still
that panel.
either replaced or straightened. I don't know what.
yeah, that would be a panel, or I would,
Something like that,
And
maybe.
I was thinking,
so how,
if we do anything too, like where you go into your back courtyard, those gates are always a mess.
Yeah.
So like if we did,
are they all metal? I know there's some metal ones.
they're vinyl.
They're vinyl. Okay, so yeah, you would do that.
I was thinking of doing those, maybe if we were gonna do anything, get nicer posts and do a composite material gate that's like a heavier gate.
Mhm.
So that, because the vinyl ones, after a while, the screws rip out so if you could do that in between there and it would still be much cheaper.
They help clean up the whole look of everything.
Yeah,
And
So maybe-
it adds value to the homeowners too. And then you could probably keep that under your 132,000.
and that would also help us, not getting in everybody's yard, like it's gonna be a disaster.
Yeah.
You're gonna have so
Yeah.
many complaints of people.
But,
Trampling over bush.
yeah, so like Terry, and what you mentioned with your boat fence, that would be that could be addressed on a community level in 2027, outside of 2027. it's
What
on the
needs to be
homeowners.
fixed, adjusted.
Yeah. I think that's a better plan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then roofing comes up a couple years later or something like that. That's gonna,
2030.
okay.
So you're in a while till this, wait, is that right? I mean, I saw downspout, so I'm assuming that would be roofing as well.
That's either.
Yeah, 2030.
So I just did, just so you guys know, I just did a
Do you have a
study
phase?
on.
And
gutters.
you're funded for a property manager, or a project manager on that too, which is well.
Great.
Some are missing that line, which is an expensive line to be missing. So yeah, you have a $66,000. Oh, were your roofs done in multiple years?
No, we just had them redone, like, 2017 was the last time.
In all roofs in the service area?
Yeah.
Okay. Yours is funded for a phase, like a phased where it would take 3 years to do the project. So I wasn't sure I usually only see that in ones where they were built out at different times, like Spring Lake has phases because they were built in phases, so the roofs are aging in
Yeah.
phases. Yeah, so really, well, you're probably,
17, so we go all the way to 30.
Yes.
you're about, so that's 265, 270, 280. Added together, yeah, you're just short about $800,000 is what you have for roofing,
That's good.
plus another 66, 69, 70. So that is $210,000 for project management.
They're
That's
roofing.
$1 million. So reason I was talking about gutters is I
So
just
10 years.
did a study on gutters for Carlisle because they got some problems over there. And so I did galvanine or whatever, then aluminum, then copper.
Mulberry's included in here too.
The price of the galvanine was the cheapest, in like
That's
$120.
not a 10-year roof. That's a
Aluminum was 170.
14-year
Copper was
roof.
50, right? But when you do the lifespan, 15 years for the galvanine, 20 for the aluminum, 100 is guaranteed for the copper. So you're doing double the price, but 100 years versus 10.
Yes, they want that every time past them.
But my point in saying this is when we go to do the roof, we may want to look into copper flashing, even though it's more expensive. Because if it's gonna last 5 times as long, then we're gonna have to pay for it every time. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
And that, the way I pitched it to the other guys, I said, listen, it's twice as expensive, but when you think about what you got to reserve for in the future, you get to reserve over 100 years versus 20. So,
So 2031 and 2032 is all roof projects. So you're going to push it all to 2030. It's going to be a big year for you as far as
that'd be
it'll
good.
drain you're going to really drain your accounts that year. You also have $121,000 in irrigation system replacement in that year. You can, no, most people aren't. And so we've just been looking at if any large expenses for your irrigation system occur, you can assign those to reserves.
Okay,
And typically over $1,000, we'd look at just saying if you have more than $1,000 of an irrigation repair, and it's putting in new, you can probably allocate that to that line in your reserves because you have 40 zones. It's a 35-year useful life. Yeah, so you can use it as you need instead of once every 35 years,
okay, it's good.
just so you're aware on that one. Yeah, but that would start draining your account at a level of,
Do we have the flexibility, for example, when we were talking about that line item for the fences that we don't think we're gonna come anywhere close to using? Can we, as an association, maybe get everybody to vote on this, but use a portion of that money, for example, on a project such as resurfacing the parking pads, which is not part of HOA, it's a homeowner responsibility, but
You
if
can-
everybody agreed.
and a very short answer, no. Here's the why. You can only use your reserve money for items that are outlined in your reserve. You could use it for a different line in the reserve,
Gotcha.
but you can't use it for anything outside. There is a convoluted, messy way that you could make that project happen, which would be not allocating the funds into your reserve and keeping it in operating, and then doing a project out of operating for something like that.
Well, hold on too, Jacob, because I think when you do a condo, that's correct, like you can only do it for that, but I believe with the townhouse, the rules aren't quite as clear, they're more gray for reserve funds, isn't that correct?
Still pulling money out, especially if it's an improvement instead of that would be a replacement, because they're all concrete now. You're replacing, but you're not improving the project. So like really you kind of can come to a gray area, even what you were mentioning with the fencing, but you could just say it's a newer style, and so you can keep that as a replacement instead of an improvement.
Maybe you do like pavers instead of concrete, and then that would be an improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could do it that way or something like that. Like that might be a different
Yeah.
way to
I'm
think.
just thinking, I know it technically falls on the homeowners, but everybody's a disaster. Nobody's resurfacing their parking pad.
No,
I see.
Everyone thinks it's their responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at it, I'd look at it like that, and it could be, that was the next thing I was gonna look at, is what's your annual contribution? Your contribution was.
Yeah.
So you're at $145,000 annually, that you're putting into your reserves. Your funding plan, I think, has probably been increased. And we can get this, I write this to have with Ray, the new finance manager, because, because here's the thing. My option was going to be, since you are well-funded and you look like you may not need some of the funds in your reserves, what I was going to say was lower your contribution to your reserves, lower than maybe the recommended, and that's going to keep a higher level in your operating so you can do those types of projects. Why I paused is your current contribution level is at 145,000, which has been dropped, it looks like. In 2023, you were contributing 155,000, and then it went down to 135, and then you went up to 145 this year.
Yeah, that was the money to offset investments.
oh yeah, okay, yeah.
So you're at 145 this year. You're funded well this year. Let's see what your end balance would be with that 145, because your balance at the end of, you should be entering next year at 650,000.
No. It's 732 right now.
You're right. You're good. So
It'd be,
you're then,
it'd be 870 plus the investments.
yeah, so you're,
4%, we got be at about 917.
Just be careful on a longer term plan because like starting next year, your reserve plan is built out a contribution of 190,000, then 197, then 203, then 210, then, so it's, I think was that a 4% more every year, something like that. So you're really good now, but if you were to try to keep your rates flat, which you would always try to do, that means you're not going to be, if you're keeping around this 150 level in your contribution, you're over padded now. But that in, a 3 years time, if we're running that flat, you're going to hit an even level. And this plan, your reserve fund does anticipate an interest return at 2.7% on the full fund. So this is still with an expectation that you are earning about $20,000 of interest a year.
Yeah, which I think we're earning, we're earning 455, so.
Yeah, so you're really good now. I'm just thinking about, I don't know how much you'd want to defer into paying, knowing, just looking in a few years.
I think we just keep it in there until we have to do something, and then we look at it.
Mhm.
And then that's at least my plan.
Yeah.
Because
Keep what in there?
keep the money in the reserves.
Oh, yeah. No, you can't pull it out. You can just not put it in, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Once the money's in the reserves, you cannot pull it out except for if it's for one of those allocated lines. But if you just put in less, you can use it for other things. Now that has typically what happens there is when there's service areas that are much more cash strapped and they don't have enough cash to pay their monthly bills. What they end up doing is they have to pay their monthly bills, so they defer their contribution into the reserves and use that money to pay their monthly bills. But that puts in what I was starting to talk with, that puts on your main line here in your current
IOU.
that IOU line, which is a scary line to get because you really need to pay it at some point.
Yeah. Which means a special assessment because they're never going to pay it otherwise.
Or some service areas are not as in good shape as yours. So yeah, I mean, you're in a more fun spot where you can look at options.
Yeah.
You can look at options. I think the biggest thing to look at, and that's the thing with, when we have a new finance manager, Ray, starting next week, on site, who is.
So is he taking Jennifer's place?
He's taking Jennifer's place, and this role has a bit more scope. Jennifer's role had some scope outside of our celebration accounts.
Okay.
This one is all on celebration accounts.
So should we meet with him again then? Because we had given a plan to Jennifer about how to invest every month our money in different CRs.
Jennifer's still with us.
she
She
will-
has received a promotion inside the company. So
Okay.
she actually, mid last year.
But will she pass along that information, or am I going to wait a year from now and be like, oh shit, half of our money didn't get invested?
No, she's gonna be heavily on our account still. She's technically raised within the finance era or section of the company.
Okay.
She's,
Okay.
she's still.
Above it.
Every month, these reports will be generated by your on-site finance manager.
Okay.
They do not come out until they're approved by
Jennifer.
the vice president of finance, which is Jennifer now.
Okay.
She moved from a finance manager to a director last year and stayed on our account, only our account, and was a regional director. And now she's been promoted to a VP of this. So she still has to review all of these, and she's the final on all of these accounts. So,
Last year, this.
so anything like that, I think we can, that should be.
Well, maybe when he joins, at least I'll send him the
Mhm.
plan so he has it, because last year we had a problem.
Okay. Yeah, so this should be, and that's kind of the main roles we've noticed. We just need a more financial overview on service areas.
Okay.
And so that's kind of what is planned to take place. There's someone that can help more, and also to help out Rose and Delise in those senses when there's questions to diving into, we want to understand the water bill more, or backtracking all that. It's to, instead of adding those types of responsibility pressures to Rose and Delise, we have someone in finance that can dig into finances.
I tried to get you guys less responsibility. I don't know if you saw my suggestion.
We're happy to do it.
So that's, that's that. Yours is more of a fun case for him instead of a exhausting all options to not go into a special assessments case. Yeah. Landscaping.
Yes,
Looks like I mean, from what I'm reviewing, it's holding. Well, I know jasmine and the trees and the easements I know well, some of them were damaged and that's still getting looked or will be doing replacing on it. So that's probably, that's moving, which is good. I was originally concerned when I saw it planted as well. That's just a hard area, right? But I'm glad I'm watching it. It's taking, which is good. I mean, it's taking better than I kind of expected it to.
Yeah.
So that's good to see. And everything else looks like it was planted at the right time. I'm glad we aren't planting more now. The route we're experiencing.
yeah, no, it was great. I do have some questions on landscape.
Okay.
So on the corner of Mulberry and Campus.
Okay.
New grass installed. right?
So we got new grass. Here's the new grass installed. Right? This is a CROA paid for thing. But they forgot the jasmine of the trees. And then they didn't do this half of the street.
Mm-hmm.
And so from what I understand, CROA said, oh, that's not our part of the street, that is owned by CCDD. But when you pull up the GIS, that whole street is CROA.
Scroll.
Yeah, so
Okay.
so we're missing half the street of grass there and jasmine around the trees.
That one actually is pending an inspection with Christian and AES to go over it, because you had pointed it out on the last walkthrough that part was missing.
Okay,
So we are,
Those are the ones holding in my.
those are the ones that are still on hold.
Okay.
cool.
There's just a couple payments that have not been approved, and that's one of them.
And then when are we getting the new tree to replace the one that I so thought keeping?
The
Chain himself to.
next week.
Next
What I was informed today is the root box is being delivered this week.
And then
And the
go
tree should arrive early next week. They've assessed where to locate the tree and they're gonna put it right in the exact spot of that tree.
jasmine around it and the thing like the other things have. Okay, cool. Cool. And then,
The tree will be in next week. I don't think the landscaping will be done at that time.
okay.
Because that's still part of the other lands,
The
other
other side,
side. That's one project. The switching of the tree is it's a project.
gotcha. On 501 Campus Street, there's when you look on the end buildings, they have the big, tall, like chimney things.
Mhm.
So not the one that's on the corner, but the other one. So the second one in, on the back side of the roof, there is like a shirt or something that's been sitting up there for months. And it's like a white shirt or a towel or something on the roof. And I'm just worried that it's gonna like cause a leak because it'll get wet and just sit there wet on that roof spot. I just want to catch it before. She acknowledged it.
Then there's,
Yeah,
just stay there.
so it's still sitting there
On the backside.
on the backside. Yeah. Way up there. I see it every now and then and I'm like,
I was like, I don't even know what your approach is to get that down. Okay.
I'm wondering like how it even got there. Like, I'm like, they didn't work on the roof, so where did this come from?
I'm trying to think of who's been up there.
Right? Yeah, I can't figure it out.
Gutters.
Well, it wasn't a roof repair, so I can.
Right, exactly.
It wasn't
So what the heck was?
And at least it wasn't for February. I didn't see any other expenses in roof repairs this year for you. No? Okay, yeah, so.
When we do roof repair, is that the same time we would do when we're talking, since we're talking about those chimney things, we would do like the caps on the chimneys up top? Because they have
That
like
would be part of a roof project, yes.
okay, yeah.
Mhm.
Because I noticed a lot of them like are missing the ephes that goes around the edges, or like the caps are like not.
Bent.
Yeah, so
yeah.
that one, we usually bring in Karen's Engineering, or we bring in an engineering firm to help, they go on the roof before we write or launch the RFP for them.
Okay.
To help assess what the RFP needs to include. Is it roof? Is it, and then, so those are notes that we would take from the committee to make sure that when we send them out, say, hey, there's questions about the chimney caps, are they in structure, are they in good structure? Do they need worked on during the roof project?
Okay,
And so then they'll go up there and, hit it with a hammer, see if it sinks into it or doesn't.
You're not gonna do?
Yeah, do whatever an engineer does, not what I just said, but,
One thing we missed in our landscaping, and it was our fault when we were doing stuff out front, was on. What's the one on campus of Mulberry? Same place where the street is,
85, I think.
this whole section we missed.
is it the side of the house?
Yeah, it's like the side of the garage apartment, and it's something that we didn't catch ourselves internally, but
Oh,
we need,
are you talking about the large mulch bed there?
yeah.
Instead of a sod bed or
It
anything?
needs to be like, yeah, a sod bed or jasmine or something, because,
I know before George, we had talked to Principal Huns about doing something.
yeah, yeah.
Like from from walking from the garage, around the garage into the gate.
Here it is.
You can
This
you can
whole
launch
thing.
that as a separate project.
Yeah, we need to have George do either jasmine all in here or grass or something. The idea, just,
You could do the Citra Blue, St. Augustine or Jasmine.
so eventually,
If you do sod, you could probably you can wrap that under your operating, but if you want to do Jasmine, I'd recommend putting in that, doing a reserve project out of it.
whichever he thinks is better, because
It's just so shaded, that's the thing.
well, that, and that's a lot of mulch. So like, mulch is expensive, so the ultimate end goal for, I think, for all of us is to
Well,
have less expense.
and starting this year, as you may or may, a lot of people are knowing, the community standards team has been charged to do more inspections over all the community, including service areas and townhomes,
I'm glad.
4 times a year per unit. So in technicality, we should look at that because that's a violation of too much of,
Yeah, that's too much
too,
mulch.
it's too much mulch. So
Yeah.
we should look at that because,
So yeah, I'm glad you guys are looking at all
That's
this.
good, to help us keep ourselves accountable, right?
yeah. So if you do have any residents, I've been getting residents saying, I've not had, well, service areas were on a much different frequency than single family homes in the past. Now they are on the same frequency.
Thank
and it's a goal of 4 times a year every door. So that it has been a bit of a shocker to some townhome owners because they're getting violations that they had not been getting before. So just so if anything bubbles up to you, it is, yeah, a good little thing to know.
I got the random one. I wrote back very nicely, but I got the one that said I couldn't park in my driveway, and I was like, huh?
So we're trying, it's been a curve, it's been an adaptive curve for sure, because we've been trying to make sure that we've been teaching the inspectors what is covered under the service area and what is under the homeowner.
Yeah.
And like, do not, even if, power washing has been a good one, like, do not write a homeowner up on power washing until you consult with your service area team, because there is a power washing schedule. There are some areas and some zones that are just full shade all the time that technically it is on the homeowner, because even between 2 times a year, they are getting too much mildew because it's all shade all the time. And unfortunately, that homeowner does have to take care of that outside of the cycles.
Yeah, I just watched mine the other day.
But there's also, that's one thing, but also if they say, hey, this area is starting to look bad, and they tell, oh, well, our power washing project starts next month, then they're gonna say, okay, well.
So on power washing, like, what are we looking at for overall costs of what we're getting done this next time? I know we've gotten a good quote all right, so you may or may not know, but yeah, originally we had the like 6,700, and I called back and got it to like 33,000 and something. Because nobody else would call. And then, not of our team, but.
Yeah.
And then I just don't want to get a bill for this next pressure washing that's some kind of crazy number, so I don't know what we're talking about for.
Well, this one's flats only,
Mhm.
so it definitely won't be that high. Do you know that off the
Well,
top?
flats only was what we were getting last time, which was like 3,500, I think, or I can send you that quote again if you want.
You're right. If you're a different association, I keep thinking flat numbers, but every service area is
Different.
different. I need to be careful on those.
One second.
Oh, gosh. Oh, there it
It
is,
just
power
was
washing.
done yesterday.
Oh, I see. You're budgeted at 10,000, so you're looking this was looking at 38,000 for the spring.
3,800, you mean?
Yeah, sorry, 3,800 for the spring and just over 6 for the fall.
Academy
Come on.
Rose cost is $3,068 for the flats.
That's perfect. Okay, that's about right. Thank you very much.
And
And that will start next month. We'll make an
That's-
announcement.
That's actually great, because
Yeah, we
We're
want.
trying to get it before The thing is the holidays and how long people can decorate and keep decorations up, so it's a little tricky.
So we like it after all the pollen falls too, because otherwise it just stains everything.
So we're gonna go around and. do
Are they
that.
set earlier in the schedule or later? I thought
We don't have a schedule yet because we're gonna do the walkthrough per service area with community standards to make sure which service area needs it first, to do it in that order.
Okay.
and Inform the communities.
And so then another thing, and this isn't on you guys, but I don't know how to solve this. Like, how do we get, and I'll be the first to say that CDD drives me nuts.
I don't know why I knew this was going to CBD. And
But how do we get better communication between you guys and CDD? So like, we don't put in something and they just trample it next week like they did this time, 3 or 4 times.
Did we get that scheduled? They're scheduled?
Like we put in a grass over there, they ripped out a tree, you know?
So Rose has sent out.
Roasted, and I know
several
we
emails.
had that escalated to Lauren sent one a week or two ago because we had requested that. They kind of told us something they didn't know they told us because a different service area was looking at tree trimming. They're on their side and they wanted to see if, no, they did tree trimming on their side and they wanted CDD to trim the other side.
Yeah.
And they responded back saying, well, that is not on our tree trimming schedule this year. So then we said, can you please give us your tree trimming schedule?
Yeah.
And now we follow, I think that has gone up now to Lauren, since we've got no response, Lauren has reached out saying, where is the schedule that you had? We're trying to work on this.
But if you don't hear something in the next month or so, let me know.
All of these schedules.
I will go to the next meeting and bitch because I'm good at doing that.
Well,
I'm just kidding. No, I will go and do that.
I mean, it helps all of us because they don't want to do all that work on your trees and then deal with the headache either. It's not a, yeah,
Yeah,
so.
because we were, I don't know if you guys, this may be before your time, but there's a house on Long Meadow that they still want to tear down. And so we went to the meeting and I noticed on CDD's,
Right?
The Rock,
Right
yeah.
behind me.
I noticed on CDD's website that they said, hey, we're paving your alleyway next year. So I had Rose reach out to CDD and say, hey, can you postpone it a year because there's a guy that's gonna tear down his house. We don't want the trucks to mess up the brand new road. And they wrote back and said, oh, we don't have anything scheduled, even though it said on the website that we were getting our
Right,
alleyway done.
right.
Mhm.
So they still haven't done the alleyway, but
Wow.
We would have had plenty of time.
So, yeah.
so I don't even know if they stick to their schedules, they say.
I know, we've been dealing with the mess of but that was with the county road surfacing in East Village. It's been a hot one. We're getting a lot of complaints.
Is the town or is just East Village specific? We don't know.
Yes.
We get, CDD is very good at communicating in comparison with that one. And that's saying something.
I will say, if you have a pothole, there's that thing you can go online and do, and they fix it the next day. They're fast.
That one.
Yeah.
Anything, yeah, anything else you want to discuss? We can go through.
I don't think I have anything else. I was just, the landscaping was the thing.
Which in your, yeah, so we have those open items and I'll say, yeah,
I
they
did have
are
some
open on those. Those are open on our end because I have the invoice sitting for my approval. There's a couple for that and they are sitting outstanding. They're the only ones I have sitting outstanding
No,
because,
just approved it. That's totally,
no, they're not getting approved. No,
Yeah.
they're not getting approved. Okay,
they're not getting approved because the work's not done.
I get you.
That's
Okay.
what I'm saying,
So-
for those easements, the Crow easements there.
Oh, well, call George.
You said,
If he
he
thinks,
saw it.
He's waiting.
yeah, he,
Had these meetings and other inspections, so we're gonna coordinate.
okay, cool. But yeah, I was
Next
gonna,
few days.
he was on another landscaping thing with me this morning. He's like, yeah, they told me that was CDDs and not theirs. And so they're not doing it. I'm like, are you sure?
I got confused.
I think you may be confused. So,
Cause you're walking, yeah,
Confused.
cause there's also a walkthrough of their landscaping, isn't it?
For that,
Academy Road too.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, cause I saw one for Academy Road. Still, I'm not approving it either.
so let's talk about, artificial turf. Because we know there's the person that has the artificial turf on Mulberry. Did ARC say that's okay, not okay? What do we know?
Is this in the private zone?
No, it's outside.
It's in the
They
alley.
can't, they got an infraction, they submitted an ARC application. And we were anxiously awaiting the results.
Follow up with the Nika on that one, cause I feel like that one got caught in a weird,
it was.
So,
was it because, was that when it was a prior to 2000?
no, they just put it in
No, they put it,
Okay.
like this year. So the reason I'm asking is, we're gonna do an alleyway project to beautify the alleyways because they look like shit. And we got problems in the alleyways, couple problems. One is nobody brings their trash can in, and now according to Florida law, you can't get them to bring their trash can in. So
You can, but no.
so they dump the freaking trash can right on the landscaping, which turns into dirt. And but we can't have a permeable surface because we have to have so much permeable versus non-permeable, right? So one solution would be in some of those areas, maybe we put in artificial turf for those little strips that are in between the driveways. Maybe part of that is artificial. I mean, we all got to discuss this and maybe not, but
We were trying to figure out if it's even feasible based upon the ARC
yeah,
decision on.
and what it would be, because
You
otherwise,
can, I mean, just so you're aware too, Delise,
Yeah.
and in the past Rose, if a full community is looking at doing a change and they're doing it out of the service area funds, it does not work if it's going on to each homeowner. But if it's going out of the full service area funds, you can look at getting a blanket approval for us, for an item. We do that with condo associations for certain things. So we'll do that with condo. We've done that with like window approvals for condo associations.
okay,
Basically, instead of them having to go through the full ARC per owner, they can go through of saying, hey, we're looking at changing the
The
building.
paint color change, right?
Yeah,
An ARC
exactly.
approval for the entire.
And the-
Yeah,
and the-
it's the same.
plats.
I, in a sense, that could help you, like, okay, in the sense of what you said, between the driveway easements, if be technically two homeowners, let's say that is one homeowners,
Yeah,
and they said, I want to put turf here, it has a high likelihood of getting denied.
Yeah.
If a service area as a whole wants to do it, it'll at least be reviewed with more consideration.
so, because,
Versus you're gonna stick out from your neighbor and you should look the same.
yeah, because I mean, we do have a neighbor now down from me that put in these like rocks in the middle. And, you know, everybody's just this Wild West over there in the back. So
They approved. I've seen them approve those rocks.
they're like this big.
Actually, they didn't approve. The board, or it was approved in an appeal because of a certain, no, it was a certain circumstance.
So the reason I asked this is it doesn't look bad, but I was like, oh, maybe we do that. And then I started thinking about, well, what happens when the first hurricane comes along and all these little rocks go ping, 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 ping. And then we go, I
You
mean,
put a little bit of cement in the bottom and it holds them in.
hold a minute.
Mhm.
So that's an idea. But you know, we still got to come up with something to put these trash cans on, some kind of non-permeable surface that's a
Yeah.
pad of some kind.
Are you out of restriction limit? Like you have no more, you've used all. Okay,
Yeah, so we've either got to get rid of sidewalks, get rid of something to make, as far as I know, we're at restriction limit. Now, we had,
Yeah, I don't.
we had this town
We assume-
landscape architect come through and walk the thing with us, and we thought they were gonna give us an answer, and they sent us an estimate for $40,000 to give us an answer.
Mm.
To not do anything to give us an answer, and I'm like, oh, okay, no.
yeah.
So we may not be out of service.
We don't know.
But there's not enough room for each house to have a pad, like some of them wouldn't have a pad. There's just not enough.
Where do the trash can go now? Just in their driveway?
Sometimes it is in their driveway, yeah. Someone do it in the driveway, someone just drop it straight on bushes, and we're like. So,
Your mailboxes are in the alley too.
yeah, and that's another thing we need to look at, like, the mailboxes. Like, take, for example, my mailboxes. I have 3 mailbox posts and 3 mailboxes. And a lot of people have like 4 posts and 4, where you could have 1 post with 3 or.
I would
1 post.
highly not recommend that because of how your bylaws are written and that mailboxes, including the posts, are on the homeowner. Why I say I don't recommend that is we have other service areas that it's written exactly like yours, but they're on 1 post. And then when there's an issue with the post or the mailbox attached to the post, it becomes a big conflict of whose responsibility is that, because it is
gosh.
not, well,
I get it,
it's
but-
not the service area's responsibility.
I know, yeah.
So it's
Between me and.
so it would be,
Coin toss. and-
it's,
Well, I mean, that's
so
And that's like half of them are hers like that, half of the other.
But
I
I've
mean,
painted it, I've straightened
I
it.
totally understand like if you as a homeowner standing looking at it, you say, this is stupid, there should be 1 post and 4 boxes on it.
Yeah.
Yes, when you get into the nitty gritty of the chain of responsibility, it's a lot easier to keep the lines clear because they're clear lines.
What happens though is, like, say, for example, her neighbor Mike, who's also on the board, he's got the post with the mailbox on it, but he can't turn out of his driveway because the driveway across has a big car. And for him to turn, he has to cut by the post and the post is in the way. So like, he wants to move it to the other side where the other mailbox is, which I understand.
It's all part of
And-
the beautification.
Yeah, it's all part of the beautification. And like on mine, I got 3 and my neighbor can't, I can get out of my driveway, but my neighbor can't get out of their driveway.
Yeah, it's not common to have the mailboxes there, so it's.
Yeah, and it was, they originally,
One of the-
so they had to retrofit and just stick them where they could in the back.
Is that why? I was like, not, it's not a common service area or,
We couldn't get.
Yeah,
mail,
and I mean,
so-
normally the homes had them that way, but the school,
the whole, they won't deliver your mail if there's a vehicle parked within
Yeah.
like 20 feet of your mailbox.
and even though that was originally all resident parking, somehow Osceola County won't recognize that anymore.
Okay.
We've walked that with Peggy Chowder even.
Mm.
She-
I don't know why, that's a whole different thing. I don't know why we don't have walking postal service here, but.
That'd be nice. Oh, last
It would
thing,
solve this whole
Mhm.
mail, being able to access mailboxes if you just had the walking postals, but.
were you ever in on the sewage smell?
Mhm.
Okay, so that's coming back. And they fixed it. Fixed
I
it
thought
once.
Yeah,
Well, they sprayed some foam in there. They didn't, when I was there, I stayed there with the guys that were down in the thing and the
who
workmen
was fixing it?
county.
Accounting.
And the guy that was in charge of the workmen there said, hey, they need to sweep this line and they need to spray it with this sealant at 400 degrees Fahrenheit all the way down the line. And he said, that's the only thing that'll work. And then the county comes back and says, oh, we'll just get a can of spray foam and put it in this crack and that'll fix it. It did. It's bad. And so I don't know how to get those guys back out here to do the right thing. Like, any suggestions?
We can make some calls.
Okay,
I
yeah,
mean, it's gonna be calling Peggy and saying, hey, this issue's back again, but.
that'd be great if you can make a call. I can send you the history of it again if you need the history. I got like,
Yeah, do that. Oh, sorry, I mean, if you would please do that.
no problem, no problem at all. But listen, if you'll help do
Your
that.
inbox easier to find and.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jennifer got back to me about the artificial turf.
Oh, good.
They're still working on it.
I
It has
thought,
2 denials and
oh, so it's in review right now by the ARC. Okay.
Turf,
It's being, so that right now it looks like they have submitted an application for it and it is in the ARC committee's review. And, yeah, there's 2 current votes, but there's still outstanding some, but it's not looking like it'll be approved.
I shouldn't, actually, as a one-off, I agree.
There you go. So,
Yeah, turf's a tricky one. I agree. I think it's a tricky one for I mean, yeah, we put it in Crow playgrounds, but also like we maintain it. Where turf, it doesn't if you do nothing to it, it can get gross. And that's a harder one to,
sending this right now.
yeah, it's a tricky one. And it also is hotter. And
It is.
10 to 15 degrees hotter than sod.
My backyard will burn your feet, so. Love it. It looks beautiful all the time and it keeps dirt from getting anywhere. It's
Think
great.
back there, if we could do some of the edging like we did in the front, so the mulch stays in where it's supposed to stay and.
Something. I mean, you can use mulch glue and stuff like that. It just yellows after, but you got to redo it, so. But
There's options. We can.
anything, yeah. Something, yeah, we got to come up with something back there. That's our next big project. That'll be happening, but we'll eventually come up with what that is.
We'll escalate this to Peggy. It's not, and that's no guarantees of anything, but
No, I
we
know.
can at least say,
Start.
hey, we as the HOA are acknowledging this is an issue. Can you please address it?
That'd be
It's not
fantastic.
saying that we can do, that's it. That we are also agreeing this needs to be addressed.
All right, I got one more thing that has to do with the overall HOA.
he has
I got-
to get off his chest.
I got one more for you that has to do with the overall HOA that I haven't been able to figure out how to do yet. So if you're in town in the wintertime, the traffic noise is pretty loud, especially at night. Have you noticed that, like hearing the cars, thing like from the interstate? And if you go to like Winter Garden now or Hunter's Creek or any of that, they've put up the sound walls all the way down 429, 417 and all that. And the toll road pays for it or the state will pay for it. So I've asked before if we could put up sound walls all the way across 417, which would, North Village would be freaking thrilled if you did that all the way down.
Wow,
417.
there, I know.
And then the same on I-4, because when they built Island Village, that new lake that's right there in Island Village allows sound to just carry all the way back towards the city.
Reviewed that
And,
the plan for I-4, because they're about to hit our section.
oh no,
No, they escalated from exit 68 to Champions Gate.
Right.
it's the next year,
Yeah, so they moved that up, and I know that
but I don't think they had the sound.
I know that we just, in CJC, just did some changes in the easement, in land ownership to IDOT
For that.
for that. So I mean,
So I would love to get these up. Now, I've heard that what you have to do is you have to do like a noise ordinance test or whatever in town that's about $1,500. And they just have to go, yep, it's above this decibel, and then submit that. And to whoever I guess one would be the toll road people, right? Because that's private. And one would be FDOT or I-4, and they will put them up.
And they have to address it.
And they have to address it, yeah, and then it's free for us, but it would cut down on noise a lot. It also cuts down on entrances in and out of town. For people that are just kind of passing through that we have problems with, like at North Village, when the drug addicts hang out by the kids' playground. I don't know if you guys know about that. But it creates a little bit more of a secure area. And really cuts down on noise, which I think a lot of people don't notice now, but would notice the change.
It was on clear nights and it's cold.
Yeah, when it's cold, you really notice it.
you do.
So,
I'm all the way back in Artisan and I hear it. So you're right. You can hear the interstate way back there.
yeah. So if they would put these up, which they should, I mean, and no cost to us. I don't know why we wouldn't try to get that done.
Yeah. Especially.
Yeah.
I-4 would be an easy, if we can get it on I-4 for, I think that's the first approach. Start there.
Yeah, start there. And then 417, 417 has already done it. They're still doing it down in Hunters Creek right now. They're down there dropping them all the time, and 429. So I know they're,
Yeah. 417 changes ownership closer this way though.
to who?
Like, see, what are we, exit 3? So just when you pass the Gaylord and then you pass over 535, just a little north of there, you'll notice the signage changes, and the transponder signs used to be different as well, because it changes from from the Florida Highway Authority to, I think, a private road. So let's see what that is. There's two owners basically.
Yeah.
417 has a line right there. And it might be our section, this section is state.
It'd be great if it is.
Federal, because it would,
Well, if it is, you can get the money for sure. So
but that's why you're not seeing like all those big improvements in the sound walls are the other owner.
yeah, they're in. So if we could get them on our end, great. One more thing to look at on 417, when you go out the main entrance to Celebration, you go under and it's like painted this nice green under the beams.
Oh.
But when you go out by the fire station, the paint is faded and you can't see it anymore. So it's like,
Oh yeah, they just did that paint.
yeah, so they need to redo it on that section too. Sorry, I'm spouting a lot of things but if you're already checking on the other 417 thing, you might as well go, oh, by the paint, by the way. So you'll do both. Those are just suggestions. I don't have any other thing for our.
It is 2:30. We can,
Just to remind them about the service area.
thank you for the reminder. There is going to be most likely, I've got to say most likely, going to be a change to the appointment process of the committees that from its process that has been happening for the past long-standing years. In accordance, well, you're aware of this, so yeah,
I'm very-
it's news to you. So we've been saying this of all of these more of a socialization plan. In accordance to the bylaws, it's by vote from your service area, by a proxy vote, same as the voting system used to, do you want a service area?
Yes.
That, not at all like the CROA election process, nothing that robust. So, and that being said, this year, what it's looking like will most likely happen unless a change to the bylaws takes place, which is probably not going to, because it's very hard to do. It will follow the process to the bylaws, which is going to be appointment through voting of your service area.
Yes,
And that seating will take place during an annual meeting of the service area. That annual meeting is being scheduled as your Q2 meeting,
Okay.
which means that the current board or your current service area committee will have a longer term because while the term would expire when it's written at like April or beginning of May, if there's no one has been resat or there are annual meetings not held, then that committee stays sat until a new is sat. So it's looking like it might run a bit of a month longer because usually the process takes place around May. And this year we're looking at booking all of these annual meetings as your Q2 meeting in June. So, but then in years following, it'll all just fall on that June.
following the thing, yes.
Yes.
That's fine.
The
I
election
sent
does
in
not
my
need to
board.
take place if you have 3 to 5 applications, because you only need to have an election if you have more than 5 applications in.
I got you. Okay. I sent in a form already. You sent in one?
No.
Send in yours.
Thinking about it.
Mike's not sending it. His.
Two, I don't know how your interest is for your service area committee. I have seen in other areas before, if let's say there are 6 candidates, so that would require an election. If before, or in the very, very early phases of like, oh, we're going to have to start an election process, if those candidates talk amongst themselves and say, hey, to avoid an election and the cost of an election, which isn't much for a service area. It's not, like the $10,000 for CROA. Talk amongst themselves and one, bows down, then then you can not have to do the election process because you fall within the 3 to 5.
Gotcha.
Just a
Okay.
fun little note to know.
That's good to know.
It
What's
is
the
gonna-
cost? What's an election cost?
No, it's just mailers. It's typically the cost of the mailers, times
15,
2.
yeah.
So, I mean, how many doors are you?
59.
So, I mean, just say 3, a couple $100.
That's not bad.
It's not insane. Yeah, you're looking at a couple $100, mainly to cover the mailing processes.
Okay.
But yeah, listen, when you talk about CROA's mailing process, you're at 400 or 4,500 doors, $3 each. That
A lot.
now it's something we have to extreme budget for. So I
Yeah.
just like to warn people, it's not at all like an expense like that because you're only talking about 29 doors. All
Cool.
right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
This was easy.
Yeah. Well, they've been doing a